Hello there, OncoPT, and welcome to the OncoPT podcast. We have one of my favorite guests back here on the podcast to talk about something that I never, ever, when I graduated physical therapy school, thought that I would be talking about, and that is business ownership as a physical therapist. And so I'm so pleased to welcome back Dr. Aaron LeBauer to the OncoPT podcast. Aaron, welcome back.
Hey, Elise. I'm Aaron LeBauer. I'm a physical therapist, but I started my career as a massage therapist and came into PT, saw 43 patients one day on my first clinical rotation and realized that there was no way I was going to be able to treat patients the way I thought they needed to be treated in the current physical therapy model. So I started a cash practice right after I graduated school. And a few years later, people asked me to help them. And all of a sudden one day someone asked me, what did I charge? And I was like, I don't know. And then I decided, I'll start doing some consulting, but I created a course and mastermind program, wrote a book. I don't know. I've helped thousands of people launch their PT businesses, which is really cool to think about. So yeah. That's me. And I like riding bikes and I have red hair and I'm training for a kettlebell certification.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. That's some exciting developments and whatnot. Yeah. So full disclosure, Aaron is absolutely the entire reason that my husband has his practice and that I had my practice. So Aaron, I'm sure you don't remember this, but it was July of 2019, and my husband and I were right about to get married, and he comes to me and says, I really want to go to this physical therapy thing, because he's wanted to be a practice owner for years. That has been a dream of his. He knew this, and he always knew that was something he was working towards. And he's like, I want to go to this thing. And I was like, we are getting married in a few months. I don't think that's a good idea. And lo and behold, we both went to this program that you had in North Carolina, and it was absolutely a game changer for both of us. Like I said, I came out of PT school, never wanted to be a business owner. I was content to be an employee for the rest of my life. And it was so funny because looking back on it, I was starting to become very unhappy at my previous corporate position because I was really starting to realize what I think you hit on in your introduction is that I couldn't treat my patients how I knew they needed to be, but I didn't know how to actually fix that. And so, again, fast forward, Aaron LeBauer taught us everything that he knows. And now we're both private practice owners, and I'm able to actually treat patients how they need to be treated, which I think is so cool. And I just have to start this interview by thanking you for that, because this is the whole reason we're here today.
Oh, that's really awesome. I love that. Yeah, I remember when you guys came out, but yes, that's really great. Thank you. I'm so glad to be a part of that journey. That's really awesome. There's one other thing as part of my intro I forgot, because this is the OncoPT podcast. I just want people to know I did one of my clinical rotations on the oncology floor at Duke Hospital. So I have some experience in the niche, but it's not one that I can really handle long-term working in the hospital. It's too hard.
It's different. It's everybody's got their own little special area, which I think is so fun. So current time, as Aaron and I are recording this, the U.S. State of the Union just happened. And I think it's a great time to really dive into what is the state of the union of physical therapy right now, Aaron, because you've got the pulse on a lot of different happenings because you're in contact with so many different practitioners. So can you talk to us a little bit about what is happening right now to our physical therapy profession and kind of where do you see things going in the next few years?
Yeah, I think this is a great question. I used to do, I think I didn't do it this year, but for a few years in a row, I did a State of the Union, physical therapy thing. But I think where we're going, there's a lot of opportunity, but we can't keep doing things the way that we've always done it. Yeah. And if you're in a job doing things, or you own a traditional clinic and you're doing it the way you've always done it, and you're stressed out, burnt out, and you're unwilling to change, you're just going to get burnt out and leave, because I've seen people leave the profession because they're getting burnt out and underpaid and they still have mountain of student debt. I think that there's a lot of opportunity with technology. It's an easier time now more than ever to create a business, to help people online through telehealth or through online courses, programs, YouTube, Instagram, all that. But some of the problems where people are like, oh, the technology is too hard, I can't do it. I'm just like, look, you did neuroanatomy, which I barely passed. You can do this technology thing. You just have to get out of your own way and stop saying, I can't do technology and using language like I am going to utilize technology to help my patients. Because I don't know how to turn on ultrasound machine, but I definitely know how to send emails and do email marketing, because ultrasound machines didn't make a difference for people, but email marketing helps people get what they need. So I think other thing is, if you're working in a job and you're like, hey, I've been doing this for 10 years, you're not going to be making twice what you made 10 years ago. In banking and finance, you might actually make twice what you did in 10 years down. You might start making, instead of $100,000, you might make 250, 500. I don't know what these guys make. People always say to me, Aaron, you're just in it for the money. You're greedy. I was like, no, if I was in it for the money, I'd be, working in finance. I mean, what I'm in it for is to help people and help patients. And I think a lot of people got in physical therapy because it was a good job or a good career opportunity. And they may not know exactly why they're in it. And yes, treating patients is nice, but they don't have a bigger picture. And I think that's I don't want to say degrading the profession, but it's degrading the success and happiness of people in our profession, because we got in it for a reason, but that reason isn't good enough to suffer through being micromanaged and told how not to treat your patients. So we need to find a bigger reason of why we're here and what we're doing. And that's what makes the work enjoyable. I think there's two kinds of PTs. There are PTs that live for the weekend, and there are PTs that live for work.
Yeah.
And when you have work you love, it's not work.
I think now that we're in 2023, I think we have a lot of opportunity to really look back on the last 3 years, but also even further beyond that, as far as we very much as a profession, even in cancer rehab, and I think it's especially apparent sometimes in cancer rehab, of how much we have been doing things the exact same way since like 1980, whatever. And times have changed, and it's not just a like throw everything out and we got to do everything and you got to get on TikTok or whatever. But if we're really going to make these lofty goals that we have as a profession have set for ourselves to become the movement experts and to help every person that we encounter and every member in our community move better, and live healthier, we can't do the things that we've been doing. And I think it really is on us that we're at a major crossroads, and we have been for several years, as far as we're going to keep going down the same track that we've been going down and see the same results, or we can pivot and we can meet our community where they're at, and we can really start to make a difference. And I would say, for me, this has been a big thing for me, get back to actually liking the work that I do as a physical therapist. Not many of the listeners know this, but when I left my corporate position a couple years ago, I contemplated leaving physical therapy altogether. And like you were talking about, Aaron, like, maybe I'll go and do something completely different as far as job wise, because if I was just going to get a paycheck, then why was I killing myself to try and squeeze in as many patients as possible just to not treat them well, and then maybe like increase my paycheck at the end of the year when I got a 3% raise or whatever.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's, like when I grew up, it was like, go get a real job, but I went to interviews and I couldn't get a real job. Like no one would hire me. I don't know why, but, I think that, I even came in the profession as an adult. I was 32 when I went back to PT school. So I wasn't just an 18-year-old adult. I was like, had, 12 years of not being in school when I went back. And I think what we have to do is go, okay, I'm stuck. Why did I get here in the first place? And then how do I make the best out of it? Because no one else can really do it for me. And I know that, the profession is like a big ship and it's hard to turn. But if we all just jump off, the boat, it's going to keep floating, and we can't just jump off, like I put time into this, I want to make it better, but I can't make it better on the inside. Aaron's got to do it from the outside, but the outside, it looks different. And there's a different solution. So one of the things, one of my superpowers is seeing solutions to problems other people can't see for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of business owners really have that. But I think as physical therapists, we have that too, because the patient walks in, they're like, my back hurts, my shoulder hurts, something's wrong. And we get to look at them and we can do that. So how do we do that for ourselves in our career? And I do think that if we're on a sinking ship, which is a different analogy, but the PT is sinking, like reimbursements are staying the same or going down, and we're expecting to get paid more.
Yeah.
And we can't, something has to give. We get, right? So if we're looking at the profession, it's like, how do we do it differently? And we just have to think differently. And I think if we think differently, their patients are going to win. And if the patients are the goal, like, why am I going to tolerate someone telling me, no, that person only needs 8 visits when I know they need 10 or 25, or they need some kind of therapy and the insurance won't pay for it. And I'm afraid to ask for money for the additional therapy. It's like, we have to get out of that mindset because we were trained to be there. And I think with that, then that's where I found, and a lot of my clients have found, like, their passion for the profession again is having the ability to do those things.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that you really connected for me is that when you can identify a person's problem that they're experiencing and communicate it back to them and verbalize it in a way that they didn't even know, like, how bad it was for them. So I'll give the example. So a couple years ago, I had some TMJ issues as I was studying for my board certification. That's a whole other issue. And I woke up one morning and I could not open my mouth to eat cereal. It was painful. I couldn't eat. I love eating, so that was a problem for me. And so I went to my local TMJ physical therapist and could not throw money at him fast enough to fix it, because I was like, I can't eat, I can't talk, which is also a big problem for me. And he very plainly and clearly identified I was having a problem, connected it back to the values that I had, which, again, eating and talking and not having pain. And that was huge for me because of how it was just like the dots were all laid out. I knew exactly the plan to get from point A to point B, and I couldn't wait to get started. And I think that's what we sometimes as PTs kind of forget to do, because, again, we've been thinking and doing it the same way for so long. We've forgotten that there's other ways to do it, whatever that it is for our practice.
Yeah. I mean, it's even one of those things where people say, oh, well, you only treat rich people if you're doing cash-based PT, which is a judgment.
Let's talk about that. Yes, please.
Right?
Keep going.
You only treat only rich people can afford what you do, and it comes from a couple of different things of, like, it's like insurance entitlement. Like, I'm entitled to use my insurance. Patients should be entitled to use their insurance. They can't afford it because what I do isn't valuable. But there's also, they're only thinking you're charging cash for one-on-one physical therapy. Well, that's what Aaron's doing, but that's not necessarily what you have to do. And I mean, group class, you can make more money in a group class than you can one-on-one PT. I can put 10 people paying me $50 for the hour and make $500. And I did 25 people paid me $30 for the hour. And I split it with the yoga studio. I made $550 something, and I got 3 patients out of it. I made a couple $1,000s in that hour and a half, but it was affordable for everybody. But people aren't thinking that way. They're thinking through their own filter, and not only rich people can afford it. It's people who value their time and their body and their health, who've been let down by the system, are definitely going to be the ones that afford it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that you mentioned, going on this idea, because this is a very limiting thing that a lot of both PTs and patients are experiencing, is the financial issue of things. But I have a patient right now that I'm treating for lymphedema and some other cancer-related sequelae. And for her, like, previously, if she were being seen right now in my area by someone else in a very traditional setting, she would be double or triple booked. She would be getting half or maybe even a third of the care that she needs, and would have to be going for longer. And so for her, like, she has a copay that she would have to pay at this other institution, but the time she has to take away from work, from her family, from doing other things that she would rather be doing, frankly, than being passed around from, therapist to tech, she can come and see me, and in 4 visits, we've basically cleared up everything that she's experiencing. So when it comes down to it, the quality that I can provide as a one-on-one therapist, truly one-on-one therapist, And the value that she gets out of that is tremendous.
Right. And then someone's going to be like, yeah, but only the rich people can afford it. And I'll be like, yeah, but I've got teachers, high school teachers come to see us, and we're like 35th in the nation for teacher salary pay. And I think that might be a good year for North Carolina.
Whoa.
But your husband's doing something really cool. Like, at least last time I talked to him, he did that. He took one of my ideas and improved upon it, which is what good students should do. Should take the coach's idea and then make it better.
Mm-hmm.
But he did that, he solved the problem of what if someone pays for a 8-visit plan of care and they only need 6 visits, because everyone's like, Aaron, you're telling me to stay on the plan of care, but what if they only need 6?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Adrian did buy one, give one, share one, or something. It was something like that.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Right, shared into the pool for someone who can't afford it to use, which is really cool. I was like, that's an amazing idea, So
yeah. And that would work so well in oncology too, because again, I think a lot of people, like, Fort Worth may not necessarily be known as like a super like hoity-toity environment. Maybe it is for some people, but there's a significant disparity in the wealth. Like, we have some really rich folks, we have some really not rich folks. And I think especially in the cancer care community, there is a degree of generosity. And I think that a lot of my patients have a desire to give back if that is something that they want to do and they're able to do. Like, that is such a cool model. I'm going to have to steal that from my husband now, because that would work so well in my realm.
Right. And we can also go back to like what is affordable, right? Because people are like, oh, it's not affordable. And, I will acknowledge I grew up white and privileged, so I have that perspective. Yeah. But I see a lot of people who it's not what's affordable, it's what do they value. I've had farmers come to me and they pay us in cash because if they can't come see us, they can't plow the field. And there are people walking around going, I have an iPhone in my pocket and physical therapy is too expensive. Okay, not everyone can afford an iPhone, but it's like, what can people afford? And it's not what they can afford, it's what they value. Right. So they value a pair of Nike shoes, but they don't value physical therapy. So that's why I teach people don't sell physical therapy. We sell what the patients want and the transformation. And then it's okay. You can't pay $200 for the hour. Like, I totally get that, but here's the other program we can do to help you do that. I mean, there's lots of options to help people.
Right.
But I will say a couple things. If people don't pay, they don't pay attention. So if it's free, it's not valued. And then, so it's really hard to give away something for free and have it actually be valued. And that's why I think people will say, oh, patients can't afford their $20 copay. Okay. $20 copay is not enough for people to actually value physical therapy. And yet that person's coming 2 or 3 times a week. So $60, what else are they spending $60 on? They're probably, buying food out, or they're probably, maybe there's other essentials. And yes, there's a subset of the population that cannot afford extras. Right. But we're not even talking about that. I'm talking about like the physical therapist who's telling me they would not go see the cash-based practitioner down the street and pay for their own healthcare. They're saying it's expensive and people won't pay. And there's a big scale of people that can come see us that if they knew what we offered, but what we do as an industry and a profession is we don't define how we help people. We just try to define physical therapy, which has 500 definitions.
There was a really interesting article that I have read half of. Okay, so full disclaimer, haven't read all of it yet. I'm working through it. That came out in the APTA journal in this most recent edition. And it was talking about public perception of physical therapy. And it talked about like, oh, it's changed, it's improved since our last campaign, which is good. But it was only, at least a good chunk of it was really focused, I felt, on the patients who are already going through physical therapy. Like, the people who went through physical therapy were agreeable to and understood what physical therapy was. There's a lot of people out there, especially when it comes to cancer rehab, who don't know what rehab can do for them, don't know what physical therapy can do for them. And we're very much, again, because we've been doing it a certain way, we've been thinking it a certain way, we're not making any changes in that. And unfortunately, like, and again, this is a little more nuanced to cancer rehab, but this is why so many people still, even decades after this amazing research has come out and demonstrated our worth, this is why so many patients are not getting the needed rehab after cancer and cancer treatment still in the year of 2023.
You cut out.
Drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Drives me nuts.
That's technology. I did a training on, was it ChatGPT, which is the new AI thing?
Yeah.
For the Platinum Mastermind group. And of course, that was the day that the technology didn't want to cooperate with us.
Of course.
I'm
of
teaching
course.
technology and it doesn't cooperate. But yeah, I think that, so what you're saying is like access and people understanding it. It's our job that if we believe that what we do is helpful for people, it's our job and ethical obligation to learn marketing and sales. And marketing is easier to learn. Sales is harder because people think it's bad. But if I know I can help someone, I have to learn sales. Sales is not coercion. Sales is helping people understand where to go to get the solution to their problems.
Yes.
So it's understanding what the problem is, finding out what they want, and offering the solution if you have it, or offering an opportunity to get it from someone else. Mm-hmm. And as physical therapy profession, we've done a bad job of doing that, because just saying the physical therapy you deserve, it's like that doesn't mean anything to anyone, because patients still think when they tweak their back, they need to go get an MRI to know exactly what's going on. Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it's my mission for people to say, you know what, I tweaked my back. I need a total body diagnostic, which is what we call our sales call, our screen. I need a total body diagnostic to know exactly what's going on. And the only person who can do that in Greensboro is Aaron. The only people that do that in the United States are people that have been in the mastermind program and have learned how to do it. But it's, but I want people to think, whether it's, even if it's just go get physical therapy, I want people to think. I had a client at the time, I was a massage therapist, say to me, Aaron, I know when I tweak my back, I come see my massage therapist. Like at the time there was no direct access to PT in California. I had to wait a couple weeks. And so they knew you tweak something, you went to see your massage therapist. And that's what I want people to think is like, I tweak something, my body hurts, I can't move well. I'm sure for you, there's a slightly different variation of this, but it's like, that's what I want people to think is not, I need to go get an MRI and see my orthopedic surgeon, which is just a fast track to spending more money and getting more surgery and, having a lot of other problems that go along with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and, again, I think it really comes down to connecting the values. Like, what is it that the patient is wanting? Mm-hmm. What is their problem? What is their solution? And how do I provide that solution and communicate that? So another patient I have, been treating her for a while. She's doing great. We're clearing up the other issue. And she comes to me the other day and she says, hey, now my other shoulder is bothering me. And she knew, because we've spent so much time, really communicating and discussing and educating on, these are common side effects. This is what you can expect to see. If this happens, let me know because we can do something about it. And she knew, and she was like, you know what? I'm going to go see Elise. I'm going to talk to her. And we've started working on it already. And it's so amazing. The flow that I feel like I'm seeing, and how much quicker patients are verbalizing like, hey, I'm having this issue that I like, it's bothering me. Can you fix that? Mm-hmm. And of course I've had patients where I'm like, no, I can't do anything about that. But I know another PT you could go in to see to help with that issue. Right. And I think it's really cool to see this promotion of physical therapy in people's minds as like, this is really how I can get things addressed. Mm-hmm. And I think that is really cool to see. And I haven't seen that previously.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really dope. And I think, well, I guess my question to you is, where'd you figure that out? How'd you figure out how to get the shit? How'd you figure this out? Like, where did you first hear about it? Like, cause I went to PT school and no one told me I had to go market physical therapy. That was not the expectation.
Oh, I see what you're asking. I feel like I did not understand any of this until I started actually trying to grow the OncoPT, my brand. And so it was by getting plugged into different online business owners, not even related to PT, that I was like, oh, oh, this makes sense. And that's where I first started to hear this conversation of like, sales can be manipulation, right? We've all had a sleazy salesperson at some point, but good sales is a conversation and a connection of value to a service or to a product. And so I feel like that was where I first started hearing this. And then when I started learning more about your stuff, and then what really like sealed the deal, I think it was the first PT BizCon we went to a couple years ago. And now I'm trying to remember, honestly, I don't remember if it was Bedros or if it was Greg Todd who really like put it into my brain about sales and conversation and value in this way that I was like, this is how it works in physical therapy. Like that was an aha moment for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I think like the one thing that I want to share like about sales is that we can't, I think that, and the good analogy is if you've seen The Wolf of Wall Street, he goes, sell me the pen. And the first guy goes, well, it's a great pen. It's silver. It's got some gold and it writes really well. And he's like, he turns to his partner, and he goes, sell me the pen. He's like, do you need a pen? And he's like, no. It's like, all right. It's like, we need to know, like, do people think they have a need? So we need, it all starts with questions, what's gone wrong? What are you looking for? Like, why do you think physical therapy might be able to help? Like, what's your expectation? Okay, tell me, what would you rather have happen? How would you see your life? Here's a great question. It's, let's say you could change one thing about what's going on with your body or what's going on. And let's say we work together to fix this over the course of the next 90 days. What's one thing that you could change about your body or what's going on that would make you happy or satisfied with your service? And people will say, oh, if I could only go dancing with my kids on Saturday night. But they won't tell you that in a typical physical therapy evaluation when you're asking them about how many stairs do you have and do you have a handrail? And they're like, is that even related to, what's going on with my body? And you're like, yeah, oh, maybe. It's those questions, finding out what people really want. And then the sale is, the offer is more of a, okay, I've got a solution to this problem. Would you like to work together? Great. So then the next level of sales is if people say yes, then you just only took their order. The sale only really starts when they go, no, I don't know. I need to think about it. I need to ask my husband. Now that's when the actual sales starts, kind of like yoga. Yoga doesn't really start until you want to get out of the pose. Sales don't start until people give you an objection. Prior to that, it's an order. But if you've done your job right, you'll get a lot of orders because you've connected with people, you've shown value, you've asked the right questions, and people feel comfortable seen and heard.
Yeah. I think, and again, just to repeat what you said, people feel seen and people feel heard. And especially, again, bringing it back to oncology, patients are told so often because there's very structured protocols of like, you have this diagnosis, you have this surgery, you have this chemotherapy, you have this radiation. And it's very like, it's out of control. It's out of their hands. They're kind of on a path that is set for them. I mean, they already have cancer, which is like the worst thing that could ever happen. But when you can make a person feel seen and feel heard, man, I feel like that's where the therapeutic alliance starts. Oh, yeah. Not by like, again, how many stairs do you have? Do you have a handrail? Like that's where it starts.
It is it. And the saddest, most amazing thing that I've ever experienced with oncology is dozens of women who've come through my practice who've all told me, I was basically told, you're lucky to be alive. Like, who cares if you can play tennis anymore? Just be lucky that you're alive. And I'm like, I'm sorry that you heard that, but I mean, it gives me chills thinking about it. Cause they're only alive, but they're not able to do what they used to be able to do. And after 4 or 5 visits of like back being active and, it's crazy that that's the message that's being shared by the medical community or the providers. So,
well, and Aaron, I'm going to blow your socks off right now. I heard someone told me that 4 weeks ago here in my area that a physical therapist told their patient that.
Wow.
Like, this is the standard of care right now. I reject that. And I think every single one of my listeners should be too, because that is not good enough for our patients.
No, Absolutely not. And insurance may not pay for them to get back to playing tennis, but so what? If that's important to the person, they're going to pay for it. They'll find a way to figure it out. If something's valuable enough to people, then they'll find a way to figure it out. And how do we do that in a therapeutically sales environment is to help them understand that what's possible for them. Part of it is like someone said to me the other day, well, I was told never to run again because it'll damage my meniscus. Okay, great. Do you value running? Like, if you could run again, would you like to? No, I don't need to run. I only did it for my brother, whatever. Okay, great. But would you value getting back to tennis again? Yes. Okay. If I could help you get back to doing that, is that something you'd like to work on together? Yeah, that'd be great. But I was told that I should never do this. And okay, great. And if I could help you do that, do you think that, it's like they start to see that that's possible. And then you go, yeah, well, I've had, dozens of patients, people come to me every week. You can normalize the problem because it's normal. It's not, it shouldn't be normal, but it's a normal problem people are having. That right. Everyone's being told this. It's fortunate, but I use the word and instead of but. And I've helped dozens of people do the exact same thing. If I could help you do that, or even get you half the way there, is that something you'd like to work on together? Yeah, okay. Is it okay if I tell you a little bit about our program, and how it works, and how you can get on board with it? And it's like, okay, we've done what the insurance will pay for, but we've got this other program, and man, like people are going to say yes to that, but we're too quick as typical physical therapists to just cut people off where someone else has stopped paying. Right?
100%. Yes. Yeah. All right. So we've danced around it. Let's talk about PT BizCon because again, this has been just such a game changer as far as how to do the thing when it comes to private practice, but also how to get back to enjoying my patient care and working with my community and thinking bigger when it comes to oncology physical therapy, which is my most favorite thing. And like that big thinking has only come about from this conversation. So what is PT BizCon?
Yeah, PT BizCon is a 2-day live and in-person event for physical therapists who own businesses, or physical therapists who are, considering owning a business and want to be in the right room. It's all about, what's it called? Exposure to other people, to bigger ideas. Leaving, success leaves clues. So when you're around other people who are successful, you get clues about why they're successful, but you're also at PT BizCon, get to learn strategies. It's not just the strategies, but the, environmental exposure to other people who are doing it. Going to a conference and feeling like you belong rather than going to a conference and wondering, well, where's the business track that, relates to my business? It's like if you went, and there's a good example, but I used to go, I want to go to CSM or PPS, but I could never justify it because there were not topics that related to what I wanted to do in business. And I'm not going there to learn therapeutic techniques because I came into PT with a very strong, therapeutic background. I'm there to learn and connect. And I just never felt like that was where I could find it. And so created PT BizCon in 2020. We actually have done it online 3 years in a row. It was an in-person event in 2020. And 8 days before the event, I had to shift it to virtual because of COVID and speakers couldn't come in. The state was shutting down and all that. This year, it's going to be live and in person again in Charlotte, North Carolina for 2 days. And, that's awesome. I can't give you everything you need to know in 2 days about how to launch, grow, scale a practice. But the number one thing I can give you is exposure to other people who are doing it, connection, networking, and ideas. And there's a lot of information that'll come out, but really it's that one nugget that you leave with. It's not all the information. It's the one thing that either inspires you to take action, gives you a different perspective on a problem you're experiencing in your business or career, and allows you to then grow your business, grow your career, and help more people. It's like, that's all that matters. It's that one thing. And then the rest of the time is just fun. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're giving away thousands of dollars in prizes, and we're actually raising money. So last year we raised we donated $6,500 to sustain the Haiti project, which they run a clinic. They established a clinic in Haiti, and I'm actually not sure what the whole situation is because Haiti's having a civil unrest that's gotten worse in the last few months.
Yeah.
But prior to the pandemic, they were sending PTs down there and training and volunteering, and now they're sending supplies. But I think it's $9,000 pays for a full-time PT for the year. And last year we paid for 3/4 of the year. So my goal this year is to raise about $10,000 to pay for one PT, and maybe 14,000 will cover a PT and a PTA in the clinic for the full year. So we're going to do that as well. There's a lot more details to it, but the idea is to provide a place that's, for physical therapists, that's fun, exciting, that connects you with other people, but teaches you things that are real world application of sales, marketing, and how to grow your business beyond just where it is or what other people expect of you, because people in our world aren't all business owners, and they're afraid for us. They try to protect us by being afraid for us because they would never do it themselves. And that's one of the most limiting things we can do, is be around people who would never do what we're doing and wouldn't go as far as we can and have potential to go.
And for the listener who's out there right now saying, like, I'm happy in my job, I really like what I'm doing. I actually started going to PT BizCon before I was a practice owner. And I learned skills and ideas and strategies that helped me in my corporate position to really, again, connect with my patients better. And I think that's what was really cool about this, is like, again, not on my radar. I was like, no way, no desire whatsoever, but it helped me be a better physical therapist, which I thought was really cool. And one other thing, Erin, and I'm curious if you're doing it again this year. One of the most impactful things for me these past few years has been, we have these amazing speakers like you, again, Greg Todd, because I just saw he was like confirmed or whatever on my phone. We have these amazing people who have been doing this for years, but you also highlight therapists who are newer, but who are seeing the traction and seeing the success, and as they're building. And that was so cool. Especially, I'm remembering the stories from last year. I think the single mom, and she was caring for her son, and she was now able to do that because of her practice. Like, there were just so many examples of like, look at how they're making this work and how I can take their ideas and implement them into my own practice and my own patient population. And that was invaluable.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things we're doing. We've got Owen Johnson started his practice, I'm trying to think, in November 2021. He did $200,000 in his first year, and he's hired 2 people, and he's just like in his second year of business, and he's crushing it. People are like, I could never do that. And he spent 8 years working in like a really terrible home health, type of environment that he thought was fine, but he realized after he got out of it that it was kind of poisonous to him. We've got people, Nick Essenplayer, he came to me and he was like, Erin, one of my big goals is to buy a house. Well, he lives in northern New Jersey, kind of like southern Manhattan. It's like super expensive.
Yeah.
And he struggled for like 8 months, trying to figure it out. And he realized his niche was too wide. He was trying to do all orthopedics, and he said, okay, I'm going to work just with power lifters. And as soon as he did that, his business is like taken off, and he just moved into his brand new house, and it's just like, and he's speaking. And then we've got like Megan Greco. She had a practice in her house. Right. And she's got 4 kids. She gets off work at 2:00 every day. She's making like $400,000 a year, like super low overhead. And there's 9 speakers total. So there's a lot of different people. We've got Jess Jenny is speaking. She does, Jess is amazing. She helps travelers, awesome. Travel PTs. And she came to see me. She came to PT BizCon the first year, and she was doing like $3,000 a month, but she was mainly working as a travel PT. And then she lost her job, and she came to PT BizCon. We started working together, and now she's crushing it, doing like 25K, 30K months, all online. Brandon Smith is crushing it with his online community.
My God. Whoa.
Yeah. And Kyle Womack has a practice in Oklahoma City, and he said, I really want to move back to Hawaii, but I don't want to kill my practice. And so we automated his Oklahoma City practice, and now he's moved to Hawaii, bought a house in Hawaii, and he's coming out, so.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know there's a couple of people I've left off the list. But I think that's the number one thing is people go and they go, well, I do oncology PT, Aaron doesn't, or it's people say, oh, I do occupational therapy. And it's like, it doesn't really matter how you deliver the service and help people. What matters is, do people know you exist? And then once they do, can you convert them into a patient or client if your service is something that they need? And if you need those things and you want to see more patients, you want to help more people, PT BizCon is the place where you're going to learn how to do that.
Highly recommend. Like I said, it's been a game changer for us. And, even I think that's one of the things, and we know this because we work with patients. Like when patients see other patients doing what they want to do, they know it's possible. Right. And they can say, well, I want to be there. And sometimes they'll even tell me like, I want to be where she is right now. How do we get there? And that has been so impactful for me because I really like seeing those examples, because it's very much like, if I can see someone else doing it or something similar, I know it's possible for me and I can make it happen. Right. And that has been really, really powerful for me as a physical therapist.
That's awesome. That's the one benefit of a mill physical therapy setting that I don't have in my clinic. Because we do like one-on-one in small rooms because, we came from massage therapy. That's the one, there's not many benefits of riding a bike other than seeing someone else who's gone through the same surgery you did and they're 8 weeks ahead.
Yep. I will say that is like the only benefit I could see. I'm with you on that.
I'm like, why ride a bike if you don't ever ride a bike in your real life? Like you should be, there's 100 other things to do. Like I race bikes. I should be riding a bike after some kind of surgery. If you're not riding a bike, I don't know. Someone's going to argue with me and tell me, oh, it's good for their range of motion or heart rate.
Like,
you
I
can
get
do a Turkish
it, but
get up. You can get up and down off the floor 10 times without a weight. I'm like,
that's amazing. So of course we'll include PT BizCon information in all of the show notes so that people know where to sign up for that. What is one thing for the physical therapist, maybe even like a student who's listening to this and is saying, gosh, like this sounds cool, but I just don't know if it's for me. What would you tell them?
I would say, one, if you don't try something, you don't know if it's good for you. Like if you've never tried sushi, how can you hate it? Okay. The other is, you may not know it's for you, but it may not be for you right now, but you're going to show up and meet hundreds of other business owners who are going to learn how to scale their business and need someone to hire for their practice. And you might have the most amazing job in America as a PT. So,
absolutely.
Like I think the PTs that work for me have the most amazing job as a PT in the United States. And there's only a few of them open. There's no open spots right now. And, they're super lucky, and they may not know how lucky they are, but I think they do. But if you're like, well, I don't know if owning a business is right for me, but I'd like to be around other PTs who are crushing it. Like PT BizCon is great because you'll get exposure to them. You might get opportunities to grow a business, work for other people. I mean, Brandon's got a guy who's a pre-physical therapist who's doing some sales for him. And the guy's like, I'm rethinking even going into PT because I'm making enough money, helping Brandon grow his, like doing sales. And, he wants to go do, that's cool. I mean, I've worked with other people who were, in PT school who are making so much money already from their side hustle. They're like, well, why would I continue doing that? And the reason you would continue is because you're using your degree as leverage for something bigger. Like for me, I wanted to be Dr. LeBauer. It's really, I didn't need to go to PT school to mobilize, or do exercise, whatever. Can't prescribe exercise. Like in North Carolina as a massage therapist, you can't do a grade 5 manipulation. And as a PT, until a few years ago, we couldn't. And as a massage therapist, you can't do dry needling. But if you're a massage therapist in North Carolina and you have a prescription from a physician, you can do internal manual therapy techniques with people who need it, who are having pelvic floor issues or internal TMJ issues. I think like I didn't need it, but what I wanted it was, and the education is leverage and exposure to other people and bigger ideas.
Right.
So for that person, that's why it's worth it.
Right. Yeah.
But it's also not for
Again,
people that don't want to do work, take action, and want to keep doing things the old way, the way it's always been done, because you won't get that information and you'll hate it.
I was actually going to end on that, as far as we very much, I think, in cancer rehab have this pipe dream of, and it has felt like a pipe dream for so long, of like, oh, we want to get to a place, we want to get to a time in which patients after a cancer diagnosis are referred to rehab when they need rehab. And the reality is we're not there, and it's felt really impossible for a long time. But I know in my heart of hearts that if we're going to make that happen, we have to think and we have to act differently. And for me, this has been the way that I've been able to actually bring that to fruition in my community. And it is so cool.
Yeah.
It is so cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm over thinking any orthopedic surgeon ever going to refer a patient to me. So what I decided to do is I need to be in front of the patients before they see the orthopedic surgeons. And so how do I do that? It's through marketing. I know, like, my dad is going through some chemo right now for a lymphoma. He's got like a non-Hodgkin's T cell. And I'm like, he won't listen to me. He will, but he won't. I'm like, his oncologist told him, you need physical therapy. It would be easier. But okay, so I don't even have, so he's seeing, Chris, who's our physical therapist, doing like medical personal training type of stuff, or functional movement training. He's seeing Chris, which is great. And hope my dad doesn't care. He's old enough that it doesn't matter. But the idea is that even I have this influence over a parent. I can't get them to see physical therapy. So I'm like, this is what we do. This is what I was trained in. You need to be, seeing us multiple times a week, but the education has to come years before the event happens.
Yes.
It has to come years before. And, so you might be marketing your business now and you're like, oh, this is unfruitful. But as long as you stay in the game, it's going to come further down the road. It's the fruits of your labor will show up later on, and success isn't a straight line. It's kind of like a curve, and there's like, it's hard to draw, but think of it more of like a hockey stick, but it's not really more of a hockey stick. It's like a half a watermelon. It just goes, and all of a sudden you hit the boom part, and as soon as you think it's boom, there's another curve to go on, because our results compound on the work we put in now, and people need to know that this is an opportunity for them, or an option for them, well before an event happens where they're going to need it, because they need to know, okay, if I ever I'm definitely getting PT, and that's called marketing. And we have to be better at marketing and showing people what's possible. Right. Rather than reacting.
Boom. So, man, I feel like you just spelled out exactly what we're trying to do in cancer rehab. Like, literally, like, all the research I've been into lately is like, we've been reactive for so long. We need to be proactive. It's like, yes.
Yeah. But even my mom was like, why don't you call I told her, I was like, he won't listen to me. I mean, she won't listen to me either. But my mom sees the PT a little bit more than my dad, but they both get PT. And at the same time, she was like, why don't you call the oncologist? I was like, they're not going to care what I have to say. It's the education. And it's not the education. It's the, what's it called? The word's escaping me, but it's our, the society, like our expectations, our societal norms have to change around, like opioid medications. I mean, you still see The Rock crunching opioids like candy, in movies. And if people expect that physical therapy, or we as physical therapists expect that people should come see us, then we have to be part of the bigger conversation around opioids, cancer rehab and research, and just what does it look like in the movies, in culture. I think the word is like our culture around physical therapy, or expectations around pain and injuries. Needs to change, and we can't change it just by writing research and doing things the way we've always been done. We have to innovate, we have to execute, and we have to share what we learn. And when people see it and we change their perspective, then things will change slowly in the future.
100%, Aaron. So when is PT BizCon?
Yeah. PT BizCon is March 17th and 18th. It's in Charlotte, North Carolina. And you might be thinking, oh, I couldn't possibly go to North Carolina. Well, people are coming here there's 2 people coming from Hawaii and people from California, all over the United States. I'm sure we've had international people. So for everything you stand to gain in your business, I know it's definitely, I would hope you would agree that it's worth the time and effort to
absolutely
come and join us. And Elise definitely thinks that too. PT BizCon, you can check out all the details at ptbizcon.com, ptbizcon.com, or you can just send me a message on Instagram at Aaron LeBauer, and you can just put PT BizCon in the message and I'll send you some details about it.
Awesome. Well, Aaron, thank you so much again for coming on the OncoPT podcast. I love having you on here. Like I said, you have been such an instrumental part of my growth and really trying to revolutionize cancer rehab in my own community. And I know that this is going to help others do the same if we're really going to treat our patients better in the long run. So thank you so much for your time and all of the wisdom you shared with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me on the show.